In the part of the Balkans that stretches down toward the Adriatic Sea, there's a country called Bosnia and Herzegovina. For some people, it's still a bit of a mystery. Others might know it well. Maybe you've even been there yourself. This is a former Yugoslav country where Muslims and Christians live side by side. It has one of the shortest coastlines in the world. It's also the place where the assassination that sparked the First World War took place. And interestingly, it was home to one of the first electric trams in Europe. So in this video, let's focus on the Sarajevo chapter of our one-week journey through Bosnia and Herzegovina. If you pull up Bosnia and Herzegovina on a map, you're looking at roughly 51,000 square kilometers, smaller than Serbia, similar in size to Croatia, and noticeably bigger than Montenegro. But here's something that surprises almost everyone. Bosnia is not landlocked. In the far south, a small coastal town called Neum gives the country a narrow 24-kilometer stretch along the Adriatic Sea. It's the second shortest coastline in the world. Only Monaco, at 4 kilometers, beats it. And because Neum splits Croatia's mainland in two, Croatia actually built the Pelješac Bridge over the sea, just so its own traffic could bypass Bosnian territory entirely. Today, Bosnia and Herzegovina has a population of around 3.5 million. Its most well-known cities are the capital Sarajevo, Mostar, and Tuzla. Sarajevo itself is home to around 700,000 people, including the surrounding areas. Look at it on a map, and you'll notice something immediately. The city stretches in a long, narrow ribbon running east to west through a valley. Mountains rise on almost every side. When you land here for the first time, you don't expect it. You expect a flat Balkan city. Instead, you get this valley carved between green peaks and a city that somehow fits itself into every inch of it. Running right through the heart of it all is the Miljacka River, modest in size, but enormous in symbolic importance. Like most great European cities, Sarajevo grew up around water. The river oriented the city, shaped its neighborhoods, and gave it a spine. Sarajevo's story goes back further than most people realize. The Romans were here as early as 200 BC. Then came the Byzantine Empire, then the Slavic tribes. In 1463, the Ottoman Empire moved in, and it stayed for over 400 years. That's not a footnote. That's a civilization-shaping era. Islam spread, mosques were built, fountains were carved into stone, bazaars were established, and the culture was transformed at its very roots. Today, that legacy lives on everywhere you look. In the food, the architecture, the call to prayer that echoes through the valley 5 times a day. Around 45% of the population identifies as Muslim, mostly Bosniaks concentrated in central Bosnia. In the south, you'll find more Croats, predominantly Catholic, making up about 17%. In the north and east, Orthodox Christian Serbs account for roughly 38%. 3 faiths, 1 city. It's why Sarajevo is sometimes called the Jerusalem of Europe, and when you walk through it, you understand why. Within a few hundred meters, you can stand in front of a mosque, a cathedral, an Orthodox church, and a synagogue. That's not symbolic. That's just the city. But history here isn't only ancient. In 1914, right at the Latin Bridge in the center of the city, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist. That single shot set off a chain reaction that dragged the entire world into war. Millions of lives changed forever because of one moment on a bridge in this city. Today, the spot has been turned into a small museum. There are almost always tourists gathered there, phones raised, trying to picture what that moment must have felt like. Stand there long enough, and it starts to feel heavier than you expect. More recently, in the 1990s, after Yugoslavia collapsed, Sarajevo endured one of the longest sieges of a capital city in the history of modern warfare. 1,425 days. More than 200,000 people lost their lives across the country during the war. At least 2 million were displaced. Sarajevo was surrounded, cut off, shelled daily. People lived without electricity, without running water, without knowing if they'd survive the next morning. You still see the scars, bullet holes on building facades, shrapnel marks in the pavement, white grave markers blanketing the hillsides above the city. For many Sarajevans, those marks aren't history, they're memory, and they'll tell you about it if you ask, calmly, directly, without bitterness. That composure is its own kind of strength. The airport is small, nothing overwhelming, clean, functional, easy to navigate. A taxi to the city center runs about 20 euros, though a confident negotiator can get it down to 15 euros. Uber and similar apps aren't widely used here, so a regular taxi is your best bet. Just agree on the price before you get in. For a 4-night stay, you can find a 2-bedroom apartment in the old town for around 200 to 250 euros total. That's good value, especially given the location. The buildings from the outside often look their age. Worn staircases, dated entrances, a paint that hasn't been refreshed since the 90s. But step inside, and most apartments have been properly modernized. New kitchens, clean bathrooms, fast Wi-Fi. The contrast is striking every single time. One warning though, if your apartment faces a tram line, budget for some interrupted sleep. When the tram passes, the whole building shakes. Literally. The windows rattle, the floors vibrate, and if you're a light sleeper, you'll feel every single one. Check the location before you book. Now, cash. This is important. Bosnia runs heavily on cash. Many businesses, including large restaurants in major tourist areas, are cash only. You'll see signs on doors, on menus, at restaurant counters. Hotels and supermarkets generally accept cards, but beyond that, assume cash. The local currency is the Bosnian convertible mark, abbreviated KM. 1 euro is roughly 2 marks. Withdraw enough at the airport or at a city ATM when you arrive. And you'll avoid the frustration of being turned away at a restaurant when you're hungry. One more thing, most supermarkets close on Sundays. If you're arriving on a weekend, stock up on Saturday. Water, snacks, essentials. Your first morning in Sarajevo, you'll almost certainly end up in Baščaršija, the old bazaar that has been the soul of this city for centuries. It was built in the 15th century under Ottoman rule, and it has never really stopped. The moment you step in, you feel it. And the smell of grilled meat drifting through the alleys. The sound of copper being hammered into shape in tiny workshops. The narrow cobblestone streets pulling you in every direction at once. At the very center stands the Sabilj fountain, a wooden Ottoman fountain that has become the true symbol of Sarajevo. It's beautiful, intricate, and almost impossible to photograph without someone walking into your frame. In spring and summer especially, it's surrounded by tourists from morning to night. But take a moment to actually stop and look at it. The craftsmanship, the carved lattice, the water that never stops flowing, and you'll understand why it's endured for centuries. The Ottomans built fountains like this across the entire region. They were designed to provide free water for people and animals alike. And that tradition hasn't died. All through Baščaršija, you'll find working public fountains with cold, clean water flowing freely. Use them. Refill your bottle. Because some shop owners in Sarajevo have pushed tourist prices quite far. A small bottle of water from a kiosk can easily run 1 euro or more. The fountain water is free, cold, and just as good. Better even, as you walk deeper into the bazaar, you'll pass workshops where craftsmen still make traditional copperware by hand, the same way it's been done for 500 years. The tapping of metal on metal fills the air. You can watch them work, and most don't mind. Some will invite you in. If you're looking for a souvenir that actually means something, this is where you find it. Handmade copper coffee sets, engraved plates, jewelry. Prices are negotiable. Start lower than you're comfortable with. They expect it. The mosques here are worth stepping into, even if you're not Muslim. They're calm. They're cool in the summer heat. You'll find fountains in the courtyards for ritual washing. Men come at different hours of the day to pray. Between prayers, some people just sit in the shade, rest, talk. The mosque in this context isn't just a place of worship, it's a community anchor. Nobody will bother you for visiting. Just remove your shoes and be respectful. Bosnians know how to eat breakfast, full stop. The local staple is burek, a flaky golden pastry filled with minced meat, cheese, or potatoes, usually served with a poured glass of kiselo mlijeko, a light drinkable yogurt. It sounds simple. It tastes like something you'll think about for weeks. Honestly, Bosnia makes some of the best burek in the entire Balkans, and if anyone argues with that, they haven't tried it here. One portion is enough to keep you going for hours, and it'll cost you around 10 to 12 convertible marks. For a proper sit-down meal, the restaurants inside Baščaršija are excellent. The signature dish is cevapi, small hand-rolled grilled sausages made from a blend of beef and lamb, served in a soft flatbread called somen, with raw onion and kajmak, a rich, creamy dairy spread that melts into the meat. Most people order ayran alongside it, a cold, slightly salty yogurt drink that cuts right through the richness. It all traces back to Ottoman food culture, just like almost everything else on the menu. A proper cevapi portion with somen and a drink will run you around 12 to 15 marks, roughly 6 to 8 euros. For food of that quality in that setting, it's exceptional value. Don't rush it. Then there's the coffee. Bosnian coffee is nearly identical to Turkish coffee in preparation and presentation, ground fine, brewed directly in a small copper pot called a jezva, poured slowly, served with Turkish delight and sugar on the side. It's typically less foamy than Turkish coffee, and the ritual around it is different. You don't drink Bosnian coffee fast. You sit. You let it settle. You pour slowly from the jezva into a small ceramic cup called a filjan. You talk. You think. You watch people walk by. Bosnia ranks among the top countries in the world for per capita coffee consumption. And when you experience how coffee is treated here, you understand why immediately. It's not a caffeine delivery system. It's a reason to slow down. Evenings bring out a different food culture entirely. Restaurants fill up later here than in Western Europe. Don't be surprised if a place that looked empty at 7 p.m. is packed by 9. And many spots in Baščaršija do lamb slow-cooked under a peka, a traditional domed lid buried in coals. It takes hours to prepare, and it's worth every minute. If you see it on a menu, order it. Walking through Sarajevo, it's often hard to tell tourists from locals, partly because a large portion of visitors come from neighboring Balkan countries. Turks, Serbs, Croats, Slovenians, they make up a significant share of Bosnia's tourism base. You'll hear Turkish spoken regularly on the streets. And some restaurants even hang Turkish flags outside, specifically to signal a welcome to Turkish visitors. The people of Sarajevo tend to be fair-skinned, often with dark hair and blue or green eyes. Women are generally tall and slim, many between 160 and 170 centimeters. Men are mostly clean-shaven and well put together. Both dress modern and sharp. The city has a strong sense of personal presentation. People here care about how they look, and it shows. Common women's names you'll hear: Amina, Olejla, Sarah, Merjem, Azra. Men: Amir, Haris, Amir, Adnan, Kenan, Omar, a mix of Islamic and Slavic origins, reflecting the city's layered identity. The language situation is interesting. Bosnian, Serbian, and Croatian are spoken here, and they're mutually intelligible, practically the same language with different political names. A few words go a long way. Zdravo means hello. Vala means thank you. Koliko means how much. Kako si means how are you. Locals genuinely appreciate the effort. Even a single word. Try it. Daily life in Sarajevo has a rhythm that's different from Western cities. Mornings start slowly. The cafés fill up not just for coffee, but for conversation. sometimes for an hour or two. Nobody is rushing you. Nobody is staring at their phone waiting for you to leave. There's a culture of presence here, of actually being where you are, that feels increasingly rare. Markets are an important part of daily life too. The Markale Market in the city center sells fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, and dairy. Prices are fair, and the produce is good, much of it coming from small farms in the surrounding valleys. A kilogram of tomatoes for 1 mark. Peppers, cucumbers, fresh herbs. If you have a kitchen in your apartment, this is where you shop. People here are direct but warm. They'll give you honest directions, honest opinions, and genuine smiles. There's no performative friendliness. When a Sarajevan is warm with you, it's real. And most of the time, they are. Walk west from Baščaršija, and the whole atmosphere shifts. The Ottoman architecture gives way to Austro-Hungarian facades, grand buildings with arched windows and decorated cornices, built during the brief period when Bosnia was under Habsburg administration in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Suddenly, you're looking at something that could be in Vienna or Prague. Except it's here, in the middle of the Balkans, right next door to minarets. Wide café terraces spill onto the sidewalk. Bars with outdoor seating line the streets. Alcohol flows freely. This is a city where a Muslim majority and alcohol-serving restaurants coexist without friction. People genuinely look happy to be alive. Luxury cars cruise slowly along the main drag. BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, windows down, music low. Young men on loud motorcycles enjoy every second of the attention. Sharp-suited valets stand outside boutique hotels. There's money here, and it likes to be visible. Right in the middle of all this energy stands the Sacred Heart Cathedral, a neo-Gothic masterpiece that feels almost surreal, planted in the heart of a majority Muslim Balkan city. Its intricate stonework, soaring twin towers, and ornate carved detail draw constant crowds. Cafés have colonized every square meter around it, full from morning until midnight. On the ground nearby, you'll find preserved rose-shaped markers in the pavement. Sarajevo roses, they're called. They mark spots where mortar shells landed during the siege, where people died on ordinary streets doing ordinary things. Some have been filled with red resin so they remain visible. The beauty and the grief coexist here in a way that's almost impossible to fully describe until you're standing in it. Further west, along the same route, you'll pass the Eternal Flame, a monument to the victims of World War II, burning continuously since 1946. It's been extinguished only a handful of times, usually by drunk teenagers late at night, and always relit by locals. Come here after dark. The flame in the darkness, the people gathered quietly around it. It hits differently at night. It always does. Sarajevo at night is a different city. Not dangerous, never dangerous. Just alive in a different key. The cafes that were busy in the afternoon become something else entirely after sunset. Music gets louder. The streets fill. Young people dress up, not in a trying too hard way, but in a we take care of ourselves way. There's a confidence to the nightlife here that surprises people who arrive with low expectations. The area around Hadija Street and the zone west of the cathedral has the highest concentration of bars and nightlife venues. You'll find everything from quiet wine bars to loud clubs playing a mix of Balkan pop, turbo folk, and international hits. Turbo folk is worth understanding. It's a genre that splits opinion sharply in the Balkans. Melodramatic, loud, unapologetically emotional. Some people consider it low culture. The dance floors tell a different story. Most venues don't really get going until 10 or 11 p.m. If you show up at 9, you'll be early. If you leave at midnight, you'll be leaving before the real night has started. Drinks are affordable. A beer in most bars runs around 3 to 4 marks, roughly €1.50 to €2. Cocktails vary, but rarely exceed 8 to 10 marks. For a capital city, it's genuinely good value. The cafe culture, though, deserves its own mention separate from nightlife. Sarajevo has more cafés per square meter in its center than almost any city its size. And they're not just places to get a drink, they're living rooms. People meet in cafés to catch up, to do business, to sit in silence with a book, to watch the world go by. A single coffee can last 2 hours without anyone making you feel unwelcome. That relationship with time, unhurried, unrushed, is something you either fall in love with or find frustrating. Most visitors fall in love with it. Shisha cafes are also common here, reflecting Ottoman cultural influence. Younger crowds especially use them as social spaces. Groups of friends gathered around a pipe for hours, talking and laughing. You'll find them throughout the old town and west into the newer areas. Scattered throughout the city are beautifully maintained parks, a genuine relief after hours of walking crowded stone alleys. The catch is finding an empty bench. Parks near the hills have practically become open-air photo studios, with young women posing every few meters. Do locals use them differently? To smoke, to think, to slow down. Older men gather around public chess tables, playing long, thoughtful games in the open air. It's one of those scenes that makes you feel like time has a different texture here. Throughout the city, especially in spring, you'll notice pink and white blossom trees that look strikingly like Japanese sakura. They may not be authentic cherry blossoms, but they give the whole city a soft, almost dreamlike quality that you really don't expect. Combined with the minarets and the mountains in the background, the visual is completely unique. But if you want to understand Sarajevo's real relationship with nature, you need to go up. The city is surrounded by mountains that once hosted the 1984 Winter Olympics. Bjelašnica, Jahorina, Trebević. These aren't distant mountains you admire from below. They're right there, above you, accessible by a short drive or a cable car ride. The Trebević cable car was destroyed during the war and rebuilt and reopened in 2018. Take it. From the top, you get a view of Sarajevo that most visitors never see. The whole valley laid out below you. The city tiny against the scale of the mountains and forest. Up there are walking trails, a restaurant, remnants of the old bobsled track from the '84 Olympics. The bobsled track is now covered in street art, a surreal combination of athletic history, wartime decay, and color. It's one of the most photographed spots in all of Bosnia, and deservedly so. Bosnia's nature is not a supporting act. It's the main event, and you don't have to go far from Sarajevo to see why. About 30 kilometers southwest of the city lies Vrelo Bosna, the spring source of the Bosna River. It's a park, but not the manicured kind. It's wild and gentle at the same time. The crystal clear water bubbles up from the ground through a series of small lakes and streams connected by wooden bridges and pathways. The water is that specific shade of blue-green that you only see in mountain springs, the kind that looks digitally enhanced until you're standing right in front of it. Swans drift through the water. Old trees lean over the streams. On weekends, families and couples walk the paths for hours. It costs almost nothing to enter, and it's one of the most beautiful places in the entire country. Further out, Bosnia is covered in rivers and waterfalls that most of the world has never heard of. The Una River in the northwest is considered one of the most beautiful rivers in Europe, and people who've seen it say that's not an exaggeration. Green, fast, clear, cascading over natural travertine falls. On the Kravis waterfalls near Mostar, a short drive from the capital, look like something out of a nature documentary. A crescent of waterfalls dropping into a turquoise pool, surrounded by green forest. In summer, local kids jump from the rocks. Tourists stand at the edge with their mouths open. The entire country is like this. You drive for an hour in any direction from Sarajevo, and you're passing rivers you'd stop the car for in any other country. Bridges over gorges. Waterfalls half hidden in forest. Villages where the water from the tap comes straight off a mountain. Bosnia's nature is extraordinary, largely untouched, and almost embarrassingly underappreciated by the outside world. If you're planning a longer trip, consider renting a car and spending at least 2 or 3 days outside the capital. Mostar is 2.5 hours south. The old bridge, the old town, the diving tradition. Jajce is 2 hours northwest. A waterfall literally inside the town. At a medieval fortress, a river so clear it's almost transparent. Blagaj is an hour and a half south, a dervish monastery built into a cliff face where a river emerges from underground. These aren't famous places in the global tourism sense. They should be. Let's talk practically about getting around. Within Sarajevo, you have a few options. Trams are the backbone of city transport. They run east to west along the main corridor and are cheap and mostly reliable. A single tram ride costs around 1.80 marks, roughly 90 cents. The trams themselves are old, occasionally crowded, and share road space with cars, so they're not fast. But for getting from the old town to the cathedral to the western districts, they work fine. Taxis are plentiful and affordable. Most are older Mercedes sedans. They've been using the same car model for taxi service here for about 2 decades. A ride across the city center rarely exceeds 5 to 8 marks. Agree on the price, or make sure the meter is running before you set off. Buses cover areas the trams don't reach, including the hills and outer neighborhoods. They're old, some are 20 years past their prime, but they go where you need. For intercity travel, buses are the most common option. Sarajevo's main bus terminal connects to most cities in Bosnia and to neighboring countries. The schedules aren't always convenient, but the connections exist. If you're planning to explore beyond Sarajevo, and you should, rent a car. It's the single best travel decision you can make in Bosnia. The roads between cities are often narrow, winding mountain routes where overtaking is an adventure, and time estimates are suggestions. But the scenery those roads take you through is extraordinary. A journey that would be unremarkable on a highway becomes genuinely memorable on a Bosnian mountain road. Fuel prices are moderate, and parking in the city center costs around 1 to 2 marks per hour. GPS works well throughout the country, and the locals, if you stop and ask for directions, will help you with a patience and detail that most countries have long since abandoned. The minimum monthly wage in Bosnia sits around 619 marks, roughly 300 euros. Average incomes run between 1,000 and 1,500 marks per month, about 500 euros to 750 euros. Now consider that a basic apartment in Sarajevo typically rents for 1,000 to 2,000 marks per month. And that means housing alone can consume most of an average paycheck. Supermarket prices are more manageable. Fruit and vegetables average around 2 marks, 1 euro per kilogram. A bottle of decent wine starts at 3 euros. Beer at 1 euro. A liter of milk around 1 euro. If you cook at home, you can eat well cheaply. If you eat out in tourist areas every day, the bill adds up faster than you expect. Salaries vary significantly by sector. Tech, finance, and international organizations pay better than the national average. But for the majority of Sarajevans working in retail, hospitality, or public services, the math is difficult. Bosnia remains one of the poorest countries in Europe, alongside North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Moldova. Healthcare and education are frequently criticized as underfunded and underpaid. Brain drain is a serious issue. Young, educated Bosnians leave for Germany, Austria, Slovenia. The ones who stay do so mostly out of love for the place, and there's a lot of love here. And yet, the city doesn't feel defeated. There's construction everywhere. New hotels, renovated buildings, infrastructure projects. There's energy in the streets, ambition in the cafés. People are building something, even when the conditions are hard. That gap between the difficulty of daily life and the vitality of the city is one of the most interesting things about Sarajevo. It shouldn't feel this alive given everything, but it does. One thing Sarajevo consistently gets right: safety. You can walk through the city at any hour of the night without feeling uneasy. Crime rates are genuinely low. Police presence is minimal because it largely doesn't need to be visible. The city is calm in a way that surprises visitors who arrive with Balkan stereotypes in their heads. As a foreigner, you'll rarely feel unwelcome. The city is used to visitors. It's curious about the outside world. People will ask where you're from with genuine interest, not suspicion. English is widely spoken among younger people, especially in the tourist areas. In older neighborhoods and with older residents, German is sometimes more useful, a legacy of the large Bosnian diaspora in Germany and Austria. Bosnia is a place where your religion genuinely doesn't matter as a visitor. Muslims, Orthodox Christians, Catholics, and Jews live together here, not just in theory, but in practice, on the same streets, in the same neighborhoods, in the same cafés. You wear what you want. You drink or you don't. You believe what you believe. Nobody interferes. If you're considering staying longer, working remotely for instance, Sarajevo has a small but growing expat community. Internet speeds are good. Cafe Wi-Fi is reliable. Cost of living is very manageable on a foreign income. The city offers a quality of life that's hard to price. Good food, real nature within 30 minutes, a walkable center, a culture that values presence over productivity. For a certain kind of person, it's an extraordinary place to spend a few months. So here's the bottom line. Sarajevo is a city that earns its complexity. It's been shaped by Romans, Ottomans, Habsburgs, 2 world wars, and a siege that the world watched and largely failed to stop. And after all of that, it still functions. It still thrives, still welcomes strangers, still brews its coffee slowly, and serves it with something sweet on the side. The food alone is worth the trip. The history is layered and extraordinary, not the cleaned-up museum kind of history, but the kind that's still in the walls, still in the faces of people who were alive during the siege, still marked in the pavement under your feet. The people are warm, direct, and unexpectedly funny once you get past the surface. The nature surrounding the city is among the most beautiful in Europe, and most of the world still doesn't know it's there. For a short trip, Sarajevo is exceptional. Come for 4 or 5 days. Walk slowly. Get lost in the alleys of Baščaršija. Drink the coffee properly. Refill your water at the fountain. Take the cable car up Trebević at sunset. Eat cevapi at a place with no English menu. Talk to someone older than 60 if you can. They'll tell you things no guidebook has. For long-term living, the economic challenges are real and shouldn't be underestimated. But the city has something that money doesn't easily manufacture: a soul. You feel it within hours of arriving, and you'll miss it within hours of leaving. See you in the next one. Goodbye.